You guys can see our logo there. Our ecosystem of support, as you guys can see, are also for community helpers such as yourselves. And a lot of times we, as veterans, we don't disclose that we're veterans unless there's a reason to on a form or it comes up in conversation. We're a pretty humble group of people, and so are spouses and children of veterans. And so, you know, if you do have the conversation with your colleagues or you do come across somebody in your neighborhood, even outside of work, in your community, please share this resource with them. The support line is open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and we do also have the ability to transfer them to our crisis line. And they can also call 988 and dial number 1. And this is just a few of the areas of what we call the social determinants of health. And what that ecosystem addresses is very specifically in 100% we need basic needs met. We all as humans need those needs. And then of course, my sphere of influence is over on the career navigation or employment side of the house. And you see all the other areas of health that are required for someone to have a quality life. When someone transitions from the military, all of these things are taken care of. They're taken care of by the military. They're given to you through healthcare, through a spiritual or a purpose. You've got physical health, you've got mental health. You have all these resources in the military. And when someone is a veteran, those resources are all gone. Base housing is gone. That support system they had, that entire family they had, because they've been displaced from their family where they grew up, is actually completely pulled out from underneath of them. And as a veteran, as I told you, we're pretty humble and we try to do things on our own. We try to figure things out on our own. I'm sure if you've had some sort of in your career yourself, you know, any sort of or with a colleague experience working alongside a veteran, you're going to understand that when you work with them or you are teaching them. But really, this is kind of you know, an overview of all of those areas that we as humans really need to be satisfied, and that the ecosystem with our community partners can help satisfy those needs once they're out of the military. If that was 15 years ago or 5 months ago, whatever that looks like for that military family, they still remain in that community support system with our community partners across Arizona and beyond. And as I mentioned, my sphere of influence, I do manage career navigation, employer engagement, skill bridge program, as well as military spouse employment and resource connection. A lot, right? A big mouthful. And this right here, this slide really gives an overview of how we work through that journey of career navigation. The career navigation looks different for everybody, just as it does for those who did not serve. It looks very different depending on what kind of resource they need and where they're at in their life. How we do that is a public-private partnership, and what that means is the VA and the governor's office funds portions of the program for the roadmap to veteran employment. And what that consists of, as you can see, is professional development in the form of LinkedIn workshops, resume workshops, career connection workshops with employers and employment service providers, interview prep, as well as virtual and in-person career fairs with our partners. A big misconception is when folks come into our program that they're going to come in, they're going to utilize the career navigation portion, and then they're done, right? Then they get into a career or an internship or into higher education, and then they go on to that next organization. We're a lot different and unique that we offer one-on-one as well as the workshop format, and then we touch base with them following their career or their higher education placement. There are additional training opportunities and resources you can see there, such as the Be Connected support line you guys just heard about in that video. Very, very great support line and department and team. They got about 15 different folks working on that team. They've got tier 1 and tier 2 support. So they do handle those things that are in crisis, those resources that are needed for crisis situations, as well as just higher education support. For example, a young airman might be getting out of biggest mountain, and they're wanting to know what their options are to utilize their GI Bill. You might ask, why didn't installation give them those resources? Sometimes those airmen, they deploy, they come back, and they're rushed through those processes, and they're not able to get that information. The support line will be able to connect them with the VA to be able to make sure that they can sit down and talk to somebody about those resources. Onward to Opportunity through Syracuse University is a really great resource for anyone who is a veteran or a veteran spouse or serving the very last 6 months of your service, or Guard or Reserve. What Onward to Opportunity is and what it offers is a one-time certification payment, as well as the learning management system to do a virtual industry-specific certification. can be, I think, maybe like 40 or 50 different programs, but they've got HR, project management, business, IT and cyber, as well as customer service, and they're adding more every day. They also have an amazing entrepreneurship program for spouses that are serving or have served or who are active military spouses or are veteran spouses, as well as other initiatives that really empower the military community while serving as well as after. Arizona Next is a partner of ours that is a pipeline to increase the amount of not just veterans, but this is open to all Arizona residents, increase the amount of folks going into those advanced manufacturing and IT cyber jobs across Arizona. They work with multiple employers, employment service providers, other schools. I'm sure that many of you guys have worked alongside many program managers through ASU to help develop programs they currently have, just as we have. AZ Next is really accessible to folks down in Southern Arizona because they offer an all virtual externship. My husband's right now actually in their Lean Six Yellow Belt, that very beginning of the Six Sigma program. He's in that program right now virtually. So I'm all about being a Tucsonian, anything that's virtual, anything that's accessible. And I hope that they continue, to push out more programs that are virtual. So those who are away from Phoenix, and the larger cities across the US can then go ahead and take advantage of those and upskill themselves while they're working full time. These are the resources that we really work with partners such as University of Arizona and others across the state to give to the HR department and to provide for anyone who is connected to the military. Anyone who is a veteran or a reserve or guard or who is a spouse to somebody who has served, even after they've served. We use JobScan as well. JobScan is a really amazing but expensive. We do pay upfront $200 a month. I'm completely transparent. JobScan is expensive, but it's very useful. We always tell people when they're looking for their next role, not to pay for any sort of resume writing services, tailoring services, software online. JobScan will charge you if you go past your 5 free scans. And what they do is they actually offer a tailored resume approach. You put your job description in there, you put in your resume, whether it's tailored or general resume. It's going to go ahead and spit out a guide on what keywords come up most frequently, really guiding you through the automatic tracking system that HR departments use to make sure that it's really tailored and it matches that job description you're actually applying for. This is something that you guys can definitely tell your veteran students as well as those who are connected, even if they have a grandfather, grandmother, aunt, uncle that served. We are not going to turn anyone away. We'd like to help them get into a job, whether that's here internally or external after they finish their degree. So that job scan is just something that makes us very unique. We're not going to write their resume for them. We're actually going to teach them how to tailor that resume. So that question was, are military spouses and vet spouses able to access these resources regularly at a certain time frame? Does it have to be a certain amount of time after their spouse retired or ETS from the military? And I said, absolutely not. There is no timeline. It could be 25 years later, and that spouse can then go ahead and access those resources for the onward to opportunity, for example, to upskill themselves and utilize externships, things like that, that we can connect them with. Resume coaching and connection to employers, right? So that's the next step once we've gotten through this whole process of where do you want to go when you grow up? I always make that joke, right? Where are we trying to go? We're always trying to improve ourselves as adults, always trying to upskill and trying to remember not to stay stagnant. We're always encouraging folks to kind of, think about what their next role is going to be in the next 5 years. We provide the training, as I mentioned before, the resume tailoring, coaching, as well as connection to our Arizona Veteran Support Employers, which University of Arizona is one of those since 2018. What that looks like is we actually connect with the HR and recruiting team in different departments, and we develop a relationship with that team at the place of employment. And we refer directly that resume once it's all ready to go and tailored to a position that you're interested in. We actually send that over via email. So you get that, preferential treatment as opposed to having to apply on the website. There are some employers, especially larger ones like TEP and Raytheon, that require for the career seeker to go ahead and apply via their portal, as well as having that referral sent over to the hiring manager. Then they do the interview follow-up and they contact you and get the interview started. So it's a really great service, really great benefit of having connections to the military. And then of course, once that employer says, yes, we're really excited, this looks like a great resume, let's do an interview. That's where we're actually going to do a mock interview. We're going to do it over Zoom, we're going to do it over Teams, we're going to do it in person, whatever it looks like for that employer. And here's a few of our Arizona Veteran Support Employer Highlights, as you guys can see, there's 250 plus, so I had to pick a few. We try to alternate these every quarter, just because we have so many amazing employers that we do connect folks to. As you guys can see there, the great thing is me being a Tucsonian and a program manager over my different areas, I actually work really hard to increase the connections and partnerships we have in Southern Arizona, because there is a lot of folks down here that are lacking that ability to connect to those employers. I do a lot more work down in Southern than I do up in the central area. And there is our email address for those of you who are looking to upskill yourselves. If you can, in any way, shape, or form, like I said, it doesn't have to be a spouse or a child or yourself. It could be somebody in your not immediate family, grandfathers, grandmothers, aunts, uncles. Even if you have a neighbor, like I said, we're not going to turn anyone away. And then there's our support line number. Please save that on your phone. You don't know when you might meet somebody or you yourself might need it. We also will not turn you away. It's anonymous if you'd like to call and just get resources for a phone number or for a resource for yourself or somebody else, right? And you can call for somebody else if they're not willing to call. Email us. We do work across Arizona remotely as well as in person in a hybrid kind of way. So we can see those emails as soon as you shoot an email over if you're interested in getting any of those resources I went over. And last but not least, we went over resources for those who are connected to the military. I'm going to flip it. I have about 1 more minute left. I'm going to flip it to a different program we didn't go over, which is called the DoD SkillBridge program. This is a really magnificent program for connecting those who have served, while they're serving that last 6 months of their service, whether they're here in Tucson or they could be outside of Tucson in different at Luke Air Force Base or at Fort Huachuca or even outside of Arizona. Those who are looking to get employed by University of Arizona, they can actually seek out a position that's open. And if they're going to be a good fit for that position, if they've got the foundational experience of whatever that hiring manager is looking for, and then they do an interview, we actually convert and work with HR to convert those open roles for an internship. And this is an internship that's actually paid by the DoD, Department of Defense, right? So it's actually no liability for HR. Their healthcare is still paid for, their paycheck is still paid for. The only thing that they have to do is have civilian clothes. Army does provide some funding. There is some funding through DES to help with that. There are some stipends to help with travel. But this is something that's ran by the commander. So each installation is a little different. So we actually have a memorandum of agreement with each of the installations across Arizona. We work directly with education centers so that we can understand what the timelines look like, what the rules are. Then we explain that to the HR here at University of Arizona and the hiring managers. So we're that liaison in between the service members that are wanting to get a job here and have a career here, as well as the education center at their installation. There's a lot of work, a lot of paperwork that's involved, but we handle all of the hard part. And then we allow University of Arizona for you folks to think about where could be a great place for an engineer or an HR or an IT or a program manager or, faculty members, anything you can think of. We've got folks who were faculty before, they went and did 4 years for the education benefits, and now they're going back into faculty positions. So we got very highly skilled members of the military looking for jobs here across the University of Arizona. And we actually have a SkillBridge POC that works internally. That job is recently vacant, unfortunately, but I'm assuming that we're probably going to find a really good military spouse or a vet spouse that is really good with networking across the campus. So we're going to actually work internally to try to help fill that vacancy at University of Arizona. If you guys know of anybody that would be interested, please contact Pete and he'll connect them over to that position. But as of right now, we're just trying to get the word out about this program because University of Arizona is someplace that a lot of our veterans are looking to get hired at. And the internship would be a great way for them to get their boots on the ground, so to speak, and to get a feel for the culture and for them to do their onboarding in that last 6 months of their military career. Once they're done with that internship, they're actually allowed to be offered that role, that permanent role. So it's a really fantastic, you feel like it's a little secret, right? Like, wow, what's the catch? There is no catch. It's great for the campus, right? And it's great for the military member and their family, and they can find a career that they really like, and they can start it a little earlier before their career in the military is done. So if you guys have any questions on that, feel free to email that career nav and that will be forwarded over to my individual email address. You can also call. They'll give that phone call over to my direct line. And I'm super excited to have been able to share the resources with you guys, especially those who are connected to the military, but also just to get the word out about this resource that's available to anyone in Arizona, as well as those who are leaving Arizona.